light of recent events and what's going on right now, we have the wildfires happening in California, in LA. We participate in a program that's called TIFMAS. We've been involved with that for quite some time. I kind of just want to talk about what is TIFMAS, right? I don't know if you do. I've noticed on Facebook, and there are groups right now. Texas is sending firefighters to California right now. We have gone, as a department, a part of TIFMAS have gone to California at least 2 times. Chief Fisher, you got to go, I believe, on one of them.
On the first one.
And kind of, obviously, Chief Brody, you as the fire chief oversee everything, but Chief Fisher, you're kind of directing a lot of TIFMAS inside our department. I really just want to talk about, people see us going to these other communities, doing different things. I kind of want to just talk a little bit about TIFMAS. What is it? How does it work? What's our involvement? What does that look like? What are some things we've already done? And then, what does that mean, right? Who's paying for all of that? How does that affect us locally? How does it affect everybody on a state level? I just kind of want to ask you guys some questions on all of that and explain it to everybody. So let's start with, y'all can just fire away as I ask the questions. What is TIFMAS?
Chief Fisher, do you want to kind of cover kind of the overview of what TIFMAS is, how involved we are with it, numbers of deployments, number of deployable personnel, and then I can start talking about some of the benefits that the City of San Angelo and the fire department in particular receive from being part of such a program.
Okay. So TIFMAS, acronym stands for Texas Interstate Fire Mutual Aid System. So it's basically a state mutual aid system for Texas predominantly, but we do assist with California, or any state for that matter. But we have been to California 2 or 3 times since 2018. So TIFMAS was created back when Hurricane Ike, 2008, was their first deployment. We got in TIFMAS around 2016-17. Our first deployment was to the Woolsey Fire in California. So it's a mutual aid system. So basically what that is, you've got all these fire departments in Texas. Let's just use Tom Green County. If you have a wildfire, which we do respond to wildfires, all hazards, which is hurricane, or we went down the border for the fire protection for the prison for a couple of years, so that's an all hazard. But let's just talk about wildfire. If you have a wildfire event and you have the volunteers show up, they have their resources personnel. If the fire is too large to be managed by the local volunteer, they may assist other volunteer departments within that county. Then the next reach would be to Texas Forest Service. Okay, so as the incident or event grows, you need more resources. So once you're tapped out with your locals, then you go to TFS, which we're very fortunate to have TFS here in San Angelo, and we work really, really well with the Texas Forest Service.
We have a great relationship with them.
Great relationship with them. So if it gets larger than that, they put in a STAR request. So basically, they're requesting resources from Texas. So that's where they'll put down a request for state resources, which is TIFMAS, and they'll build a package, they'll check availability, and then they will, different departments, they will send resources, 2 engines, a strike team.
Is the state split up? I mean, are they just saying, hey, come one, come all, or do they have, is there divisions?
They have different regions. Okay. So they will, the way they're doing it now is you'll fill in this Google Doc sheet, put your availability. The state will see where resources are, where do they need them, and then they will just fill this deployment package and send whatever you're requesting. So, awesome. I'm pretty sure. Tell me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. That I think Texas is probably the only state that has this program. Mm-hmm. I think other states are looking at developing and doing it, but as of now, Texas is the only state that uses this state mutual aid system to provide protection and for the state.
So, and I know, obviously I'm familiar with it, but tell me a little bit about the teams, right? There's different divisions inside TIFMAS, right? So when you said they build these packages, there's different things they could ask for, right? We talked about wildland, all hazards, there's RIM, EMTF. Talk just a little bit.
Yeah, so the wildland is a team that's, we have about probably 20 of our members that are on the wildland deployment team. So there's different, engine bosses and stints. And so they may request a Type 6 engine, which is a wildland truck, or a Type 3 engine, which is a wildland. So they will ask. We have 2 Type 6s that we can send. Chief Brody will talk about the vehicles that we have received from some of the funding. But so that's just a wildland. All hazard can be from sending resources to the Gulf for hurricane. Yeah.
The border protection thing.
Border protection. Right. They can pre-stage them, or just depending on they have just different.
This most recent hurricane down at the coast, I know we had resources just pre-staged. They were expecting it to be a certain way, so they're really deploying us not always right after the emergency, but even before the emergency.
And even in wildland, they can do an IA, so initial attack, or they can pre-stage and check the weather and see.
And it's pretty amazing. A lot of times they're looking at these weathers and this weather and saying, hey, there's a high probability of a wildfire here, and they'll gather these resources. We'll be sometimes we're part of that package, and you go and you're just sitting there and waiting.
You're sitting there and waiting, yes.
Yeah, pretty amazing. There's some other ones, RIM, EMTF.
Yes, they don't really kind of fall under TIFMAS. It's more the Emergency Medical Task Force, but there's a difference. But yes, there's RIM, Rapid Extrication Module used that is deployed with a wildland event.
Right.
And then they have EMTF. They have medics that are. So they can do a package with vehicles and emergency medical team to be there in case there is an injury on the fire line with one of the wildland firefighters.
Well, the good thing is there's a lot of training, right, that goes with that, right? For us to be able to be in the system and have some of the capabilities that's going to be needed in all these different types of emergencies also correlates with equipment. And if you're not on a TIFMAS deployment, that means that equipment's right here in San Angelo and is available for use for us in everyday emergencies here locally. I want to talk a little bit about some of the equipment that we have.
I'll jump in. I'll jump in now. So let's talk about the impact to San Angelo, not just San Angelo Fire, but for our community. The Cliff Notes version of what TIFMAS is basically neighbors helping neighbors. A lot of people in San Angelo remember the wildfire event that happened in the Panhandle. It was over 1 million acres burned, and a lot of those departments up there are volunteer departments, very small in size. If the TIFMAS program was not in existence, those resources would have never gone up there.
Right.
A huge impact to our organization is if we need resources here locally, whether it be for a wildfire event or a flooding event or a tornado event, we're one phone call away from getting over 10,000 available resources, personnel, to come to San Angelo for assistance, not to mention the equipment from outside areas, from all different branches around the state. Now, if we want to talk about financial impact, this is a huge benefit to our city and our department. So the personnel that are deployed, 100% of their salary while they are on deployment is paid for by the state. Well, whenever our personnel are deployed, we have to maintain minimum staffing on duty here. Well, the state also picks up the bill for the staffing that is called in to backfill those personnel while they're on deployment. Right. So it's a zero cost to the citizens or the city for those people, those personnel to be on deployment. Now, whenever we send out personnel, we send out resources with it, whether it be a Type 6 engine, which is basically a heavy-duty pickup truck, large frame pickup truck with a fire pump on the back with all-terrain capabilities, or escalate up to a Type 3 vehicle, which is a little bit larger fire truck. If you've been watching the fires in California, Southern Cal, most of their engines are Type 3 engines. It's just a little smaller than a standard engine. Mm-hmm. Or they can request a Type 1, which is a standard fire truck, or ladder, or any particular resources that we have available. When those resources do go out, the state will reimburse us per hour that vehicle's out on deployment, from the time it leaves till the time it returns. And on an extended deployment, there is a significant amount of funding that comes back to our city, not only to maintain that fleet, but also to replace that fleet at some period of time. And last year in '24, we had 2 big pieces of equipment that we were able to purchase through this program. Type 6 engine, the cost of that engine was about $320,000. We also purchased a Type 3 engine, and the cost of that was $514,000. And not a single dime of the purchase of those 2 vehicles came from local tax dollars. So almost $1 million of tax burden was relieved from our citizens because we are involved in the TIFMAS program. We've been able to get valuable equipment over the years for a rescue company, heavy-duty struts and extrication equipment, and that equipment is used every single, well, not every day, but it is available for use every single day for our city. And when these vehicles are not out on deployment,
They're here.
they're here. We would need them anyways. We sit at an urban interface right at the outside of the city limits. Even inside the city limits, we have heavy vegetation that could cause some pretty significant fire hazards. And everybody knows in San Angelo, every summer we go through a significant drought period, and we deploy our brush trucks every summer here locally. So to have these resources is at zero cost to our citizens, it's pretty huge impact. Not to mention the impact that we have statewide. We're building our reputation in the TIFMAS system with other departments. San Angelo is making a name for itself statewide. And we've deployed to California, all the way from little old San Angelo in the middle of Texas, deploying to Hollywood, California, fighting fires with some of the best wildland firefighters in the country. There's multiple impacts and multiple benefits for us to be in this program.
That's awesome. So when, we talked a little bit about the money and how that works, but and we talked about the equipment, right? So being part of this thing and having this equipment when we're not on a deployment, that stuff is here in the city and available. What happens when they do go on deployment? So when these trucks are going to the Panhandle, to California, what's left here at home? Obviously the emergency, we're still having to run 911 here, so if something goes, do we still have enough here to still mitigate anything that's going to come in locally?
So the San Angelo Fire Department's number one priority is to protect the citizens of San Angelo. We will never reduce our forces that would hinder any type of response in San Angelo. Currently we have 3 frontline brush trucks. We will never deploy more than 2 at a time. And about March we will receive our 3rd brush truck, and it'll give us the capabilities to deploy 2, still have 2 at home, or deploy 3 and still have 1 at home. It depends upon the fire hazard here locally, how many vehicles I'm willing to allow to go out on deployment.
Right. Awesome.
There's another aspect that I do want to mention that is kind of behind the scenes that a lot of people don't get to see, but there is an incredible amount of work associated that resides in one position. So our administrative assistant, Stephanie Collins, she is responsible for 100% of the paperwork and the reimbursement package. And if it wasn't for her doing these reimbursements, we wouldn't be part of this program. We still would need somebody to do this program. So big shout out to Stephanie for what she does for our department and making sure that we get paid from the state.
Now I also want to say, I know, again, I get to see on a daily basis what Stephanie goes through, the administrative part and how much work goes there. I get to see how much Chief Fishers deals with when they're making these requests, trying to find the personnel, who's going to go, who can go, who can't go. They may be going for 2 weeks, they may be going for a month, right? That is, life goes on hold instantly. You got to go now, right? The other thing is training, right? Getting all of our personnel up to speed, so to say, in the wildland world, right? And we've got some pretty. We're lucky enough to have some personnel inside our department that are a pretty big deal in the wildland world, and they're right inside SAFD. And when y'all want to kind of touch on how important it is to have some people like that in your organization, to be able to train everyone and get them ready and prepare them for and keep us, at this top-notch level. One of y'all want to touch on
Chief
some of
Fisher,
those
I'll let
people?
you touch
some of those individuals in our department.
Yes, and I just want to add to what Chief Brody said about Stephanie, because reiterate what she does for the deployment package, for the reimbursement, and it is a lot of work that she does. So really appreciate what she does.
If none of that, if stuff's not getting turned in, right, when we start talking about the money and the reimbursement, all that has to be accurate, and it is. Crossing T's, dotting I's.
She does a phenomenal job.
If us being involved in this program costs the citizens of San Angelo money, we would not be in the program.
Right.
So the importance of the reimbursement is allowing us to continue to be part of this program, because without receiving those reimbursements, we could not continue to be part of this. Yeah. So it is a huge responsibility, and it's a huge benefit to us that she is amazing at it and gets it done pretty efficiently.
Well, and going back to what I was saying, the amazing part, some of the personnel that we have inside,
Yeah.
that came to us with some credentials, and then have just.
So we've got two individuals, Jade Hughes and Luke Wilkes. They both, prior to the Samsville Fire Department, worked with the Texas Forest Service and other entities. So they had a wealth of knowledge in the wildland area. Right. So we are very fortunate to have them when we got into TIFMAS. We accelerated, I think, faster with what our progress was to have them involved with us. Right. Their knowledge is highly rated.
They are sharp.
I went to California with Jade Hughes. Yep. We're in California. We've got people from Oregon and Washington, and I'll just brag on Jade because I was with him, and he's legit in the wildland. Yeah, and Luke as well. They're both excellent, and so that has been really, really fortunate for San Angelo. As Chief Brody talked about, our representation in Texas is really good, and we've got a lot of great people in the TIFMAS. We got a lot of officers and firefighters that have really moved up, put a lot of training, a lot of time, a lot of money, effort into building their experience and training. So we're very fortunate. We've got a lot of great people, but Jade and Luke have really, I think, been great to have on the team.
Well, not only current personnel, we have some former personnel that now they've moved on from their position here at San Angelo Fire, and now they are working for TIFMAS.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
That's just kind of goes to speak just how important the TIFMAS program is to San Angelo and how involved we are, current personnel and now former personnel.
Yeah.
So we have a battalion chief that moved on and now went
pretty high up in the TIFMAS realm.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.